Hello and welcome to this Tip of the Week video where I will be showing you some of the innovative features of our spark guard, or as we call it, grit guard, for all MAG-81 and 8200 series sharpeners. So I have one of the grit guards here in front of me, and you can see the unit on here on 8100, and it is the same grit guard here on the 8200. So here's one by itself. One of the very neat features about this grit guard is that it can be used alone as simply a guard and collector. So normally as a standard there's a solid bottom, but you'll notice here you can see a bit of a circle. There's a knockout. This knockout can be removed to add an inlet. This is the same inlet we use on all MAG-200 dust collectors that can be put onto here to allow you to connect the hose of the MAG-200 dust collector. So this is a 4-inch hose and this is the 4-inch inlet. And now in the event that, let's say, you have an older dust collector from a MAG-8000 or a MAG-9000, their receptacles were 2.5-inch. Well, we still manufacture the 2.5-inch inlet, so you could put the 2.5-inch inlet here and you could stay with your existing dust collector and hose. Now you can always change it all up to 4-inch as well, and do keep in mind 4-inch is up at 400 CFM, so the larger inlet does draw more. Here's a quick close-up view of the hose connected to the inlet on the bottom of a grit guard. Now let's give you a little closer look of the installation of the inlet to the grit guard. Now of course I have this grit guard removed from the sharpener, but if you were to have your sharpener on a stand, you could remove simply these 4 bolts on the bottom and the bottom cover would come off, and you could leave the top portion of the grit guard on the sharpener. Here we have the bottom of the grit guard, and we'll first remove all 4 screws. Next, we'll twist out the knockout. Now we can take our inlet and we'll get a screw ready. Now you can see how the inlet is attached to the bottom of the grit guard. So now we have the finished grit guard here with the 4-inch inlet installed. You can see how simple that was. Now one other thing I'd like to mention is here is the grit guard bottom just by itself with the inlet attached. As I mentioned before, if your sharpener is already mounted on a stand and you'd like to install this inlet, you can crouch down below it, or you can take off just the bottom portion of the grit guard to do this job as well. So you kind of have 3 ways of doing it. You could take the whole grit guard off, you could take just the bottom off, or you could crouch down below the machine to put the inlet on. One other note to make is earlier versions of the 8100 and 8200 have this grit guard bottom as one solid piece before we started doing the knockout style. So if you have one of those where your whole base is one solid piece and there is no knockout, we do sell this as an assembly with the inlet and the grit guard bottom together. So again, if you'd have an earlier version, you would need both of these pieces together to give yourself an inlet port on your sharpener. If you have any of the newer ones, you would simply have the knockout and you would only need an inlet. I certainly hope this was helpful. Thank you very much for watching, and all of these parts are available at Magna-Matic.com. If you have any questions, give us a quick call. Thank you.